Okay, Max, today we're talking about takeaway, the importance, and how to set up your swing to hit some flushers.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, today we're talking about takeaway. There's a lot to go into this small fraction of the swing, if you will, but I mean, the takeaway is important because it's going to set you up for the rest of the swing.
Yep.
So, I think first, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the importance of the takeaway, and then we'll dive into everything that goes into it.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. The way that I kind of view takeaway is more or less just like if we can kind of nail the takeaway, the rest of the golf swing just kind of is able to happen.
Yeah.
And we don't really have to try to do anything, kind of funky in transition or in the like downswing. So
Right. Yeah. And real quick, if you set up to the camera face on,
Yep.
I think to help people understand at least what we would view as takeaway, if you know the P system, it's going to be about P2, P2.5. So that's when shaft is at parallel, or maybe just a fraction past. Anywhere in here is going to be what we'd consider the takeaway. And again, like Max said, that's setting up the swing, because from there it's just that snowball effect.
Yep.
So talking about takeaway, what does the body do? I would say to start the swing, right, we talk about the upper spiral, or you can think of the upper body, is what's going to initiate that takeaway. One thing I'll see a lot with people is if you were to set up down the line here, one fault I'll see a lot of golfers do is you hear, I got to get open, I got to get deep. So you'll see the trail pelvis pull back. And what's that going to do? It's going to suck the club inside.
Yeah,
now you're
hands go
behind.
immediately inside.
Yeah, then what's the rebound as you work through in the downswing?
Kind of gets a little deep, and then what we'll see is like then it gets a little steep over the top. Once we get that swipe miss, you'll tend to see a lot of that kind of tilt picture where the club face is open.
Right.
Or sometimes we'll flip it when we tilt.
Right.
It all kind of comes from that, like the takeaway that's a little bit too far inside.
Yeah. So you hear, well, I got to get the body open. That would be what we'd consider a wrong way to go about that.
Yep.
So something we prefer to see is that upper spiral on that trail side starting to pull you up, back, and away. And for us, that's feeling like the chest. You hear us talk about the chest takes it away or the upper body takes it away.
Yep. And I think a big thing too when we do this is feeling like we almost have a stretch from like, so my left hip pocket almost to like my right kind of shoulder. There's going to be quite a stretch across my across my core here.
Yeah. So lead hip, trail shoulder, and you're just trying to pull on that rubber band or pull on that, create some tension. So go ahead and show me that a couple times of
I'll
pulling
like
that band
down the line. So it's going to be here where chest moves it, and then I stretch and let my hips go. So if I do this face on, you can kind of see.
Yeah.
And honestly, a good drill for doing this is putting the club across your chest and going stretch there, so you can see that kind of spiral start to work. And then as I keep moving, now the hips are now engaged, but they're not sucked way behind me.
Yeah.
I'm just creating a little bit more stretch, that way I can let that spiral go on the through swing.
Do that again from face on, where you do that first half, what we'd consider the takeaway, right about P2. So stretch that band and look how quiet that trail pelvis is in relation to the chest, right? You can tell the chest or the spiral is doing the majority of the pulling. As you keep working up, we're now going to see, okay, there's a little more pelvis engagement to get open. But you didn't start with the pelvis. We started with the chest or the upper spiral.
Yeah, and I think, kind of making sure that the pelvis responds to what the upper body's doing is super, super key to feeling that.
I love that. So, in our opinion, or our preference, is the upper spiral or the chest is what's going to initiate. That's what we would consider, that's what the body does.
Yes.
So now talking about, well, what do the arms do, and even what do the hands do to play their part as it relates to takeaway? And I think specifically for people at home, the center of mass, right? So just quick education on that again. It's generally where the club's going to balance. So wherever this center of mass is in space is going to dictate where's that club going and how it affects the rest of the golf.
Exactly. So yeah, I think first and foremost with the hands, we get the hands to actually kind of control where the center of mass is. And, at the same time, we get club face stability as well.
Yeah, you need both of those working.
Right, so if I make this picture here, we're down the line, and I like roll my hands over, which we see quite a bit too.
Yes.
That club face is wide open now.
And then we'll look at the center of mass. It's
Exactly.
behind
It's already
you
behind me.
and even under in relation to your hands. So somehow you got to get that club.
Which is where you'll see the arms start to fire up.
Well, look what it does to your wrist. Now you got this extremely cupped wrist, extremely open at the top. We got to compensate somewhere else now.
Yep. And it usually comes from like that picture there. We get a little bit steep over the top. So the arms will fire down. And then again, the body's responding to the arms. not the arms responding to what the body's doing.
Correct. Let's see. Even a common one you see is, you know, like these days, Dustin Johnson or Morikawa. You want the club face shut. You want a bowed wrist.
Yep.
Oftentimes there will be overkill, and that club face is extremely shut. And now we got to find a way to compensate.
Correct. Exactly.
So for the arms are there to support the club, but it's going to be the wrists. Again, we're talking takeaway.
Yep.
It's going to be the wrists that are starting to pitch that center of mass or pitch that club in the fashion we want. So go ahead and set up. No golf ball yet. But if we were going to make a sequence out of this, number one would be upper spiral to start the takeaway.
Yep.
Number two, you just did it right there. That's perfect. The wrists or the hands start to kick the center of mass up. And somewhere from this P2 working our way into P3, P4, the arms start to then go up. And now you have that nice takeaway that leaks into a really good backswing.
Yep.
So the sequence would be upper spiral, wrists, arms supporting as we work it up to the top.
Yep.
I love that. So just some quick hand education, what we're trying to do with this club. There's a couple ways we can move the center of mass in the club itself. So number one is radial deviation. So you can think of that as thumbs up. Or if you have the club head, you're trying to get the club head above your hands.
Yep.
It's just in the wrists, kicking that club head up. Now, like Max is starting to demonstrate, well, what do we do when the club head gets below my hands? That's considered ulnar deviation, or you can think thumbs down. And again, that kicks the club head below my hands.
Yep.
The next one we have is wrist flexion and wrist extension. So wrist extension, if it's your trail arm, you can think palm towards the camera, or you can think, how do we move the club head to the right?
Yep.
And you can see there the club face stays relatively passive. That's how we keep the club face square. Now, if we release the club or throw the club, that is trail wrist flexion. And it'd be the opposite, right, for your lead. So this would be flexion on the lead hand. This would be extension on the way through. And the last one, Max touched on this a little bit, is rolling the face inside. That is what we call supinating of the trail arm and pronating of the lead. You can see there's that cupped wrist again that we don't like to see, that wide open club face. If you have any bit of rolling the face or rolling those forearms, you see a lot of face flashing through the strike to try and square.
Yep, and that would be a result of like pronating that trail wrist through the strike. So you're going to see that trail forearm get over the lead forearm.
Yes. So now we're going to talk about what we'd like to see preference-wise first, and then some cures for everything else we see going on. So if you were going to hit a golf ball here, and we'll even tee it up, because I think when we're talking about drills and talking about feels, I prefer something off a tee so it's viewed as a workstation rather than, oh, I'm trying to hit golf balls flush.
I'd absolutely agree. So I think biggest thing that we kind of view as a preference would club head just slightly outside the hands, if not on the hands.
Yes.
We tend to see this quite a bit. This is probably something we don't prefer quite as much.
We would want to stay away from that.
Yeah, I mean, there are good players that can do this from here, but I think we found more success if we can kind of live in this zone here where that club head is just either on the hands or just outside the hands. It allows the club to work a little bit more efficiently through the golf ball.
And the other thing I think to point out too, go back to that same spot.
Yeah.
We want that club head slightly in front or even on line, but this leading edge matching your spine angle.
Yep. All right, Trev, so show me this kind of drill that we can do to help kind of get into that preferred wrist condition for the takeaway.
100%. So just set up to the golf ball, and to keep it simple, goal number one, get the club head above your hands without turning or lifting those arms.
Okay.
So that means we got to go into some radial deviation. Good. See that club head is in line or above his hands. Now, without turning or anything going on, we got to move the club head over to his trail side. So now we're talking about some radial deviation. We're talking about some trail wrist extension. And now he's in that takeaway spot. So just rehearsing that a couple times to go, that's the place I want to end up in. So above the hands, to the right. That's what we're trying to feel. And then now he can make, that little loop.
It's almost like a little half circle.
Yes. Yep. Beautiful. And then when he's ready to go, he can start to work on upper spiral, that sequence we talked about, if he can take it away to that spot. So go ahead and show us one. Awesome. And again, that just puts you in a really good spot of, if I can get to this takeaway position, if you will, that's going to set me up for success. And we're going to stay away from position because it's a dynamic spot. You're only moving through here in a split second. But if you start to really nail, okay, if I look at myself on camera and I'm moving through that spot, I know I'm setting myself up for success.
Yep. Well, and I noticed even just doing a drill as simple as that, it's really, really easy to get the middle of the club face to the back of the golf ball.
Yeah, you set those wrist structure, your conditions are good to go. Now just let the body do its thing and you're setting yourself up.
Yeah,
for
the body
success.
just kind of responds to where the wrists are at.
100%.
What's this contraption you got in my my hands here?
Yeah, so this one's great too. Just another way to incorporate good wrist conditions, good takeaway, and turn it into a swing, a little more dynamic than the last one.
Okay.
So that alignment 6 on the outside of your grip, it's on his lead side when he sets up to the golf ball. Big key here is you can see how much of a forward press that puts him in. We're going to try and fight that a little bit and be as close to a standard setup as possible. Then from here, he's going to see through radial deviation or club head above his hands, how long can he slide that alignment stick down his leg.
Yeah.
And you can see how severe that center of mass starts to work up.
Yeah, that gets like vertical super, super fast.
Yeah, and if we start to go incorrectly, you're going to see how quickly this stick comes off. Yeah. And what I like about this is it gives you immediate feedback. Am I doing this right or not? Rather than let's hit a golf ball, check the camera, and it may be a wasted rep.
Yep. All right, Trev. So as I'm starting to work this stick down my lead leg here,
yeah,
at what point should I start to turn my body?
I mean,
so
if
what point is like, do I have enough RD or radial deviation to get this club to start to turn behind me?
So if I was going to give you like a definite spot, I would say by the time that stick is starting to graze down your lead knee, is a good time to start that sequence of upper spiral as you start to work. So if you want to just rehearse a couple takeaways, slide it down, start to cue up the takeaway, and you start to find your flow. So if we were going to do this in pieces to start, just so that folks know what we're looking for, slide it down to your knee. That'll be piece 1. Piece 2 is the upper spiral pulls it away. And then piece 3, we're going to rotate, chip it through. And again, you can do this in pieces, and then you can start to blend it. So I'll let you dictate, you want to piece it or blend it?
Yeah, I'll piece it first here.
Okay.
Boom.
Excellent. Okay, Max, what do you got as far as drills to help with takeaway?
Yep, so this is going to be more body-oriented takeaway things that we're going to do for drills. First one that I like, it's super, super simple, especially because I think we all have golf balls, and we can do this on the driving range.
Yeah.
So kind of helps, get that takeaway a little bit more neutral or a little bit more straight back, which will in turn, if we feel straight back with the body, the club head will tend to want to stay right on our hands, or maybe just outside our hands.
Just following along.
Exactly. So what I do is I'm going to have you set that club up right behind the golf ball.
Okay.
And then I will put another golf ball here behind the club head.
Yeah.
And your goal as the player is to push this club back, push the golf ball back, which will then, you can already tell, do that again for me.
Yeah.
When we do that, you push that ball back. That ball is going to generally roll back towards the camera on a straight line. And when you do this, you have this picture of club head outside the hands, and you've done it all because you've moved your body. You haven't really moved your hips or anything. You haven't really even set your hands yet.
Yes.
But you've just moved your body straight back.
Yes.
Which keeps the club, square to the target right now as well.
Yes. What I felt there was, how long can I keep the back of this club head on this ball? And it wasn't in the sense of I have to move off this golf ball and reach to do it. It's just how much can I turn and challenge that upper spiral to push this ball away. Like, it's going to come off at some point, but like you said, I've done this a couple times now, and that club head is outside my hands. And the cool part is I haven't even added any radial to start kicking this club head up, which is when the arms can do their part.
Correct.
So it's a perfect way to nail the first 2 or 3 feet of this takeaway.
Yep, and I think the cool thing about this too is you can start to identify, what you do in the takeaway. So if you're somebody that takes the golf club a little bit too far inside like that, you're going to see the golf ball go towards your body.
Well, look at these. Look at this.
Exactly.
Like you're caught in the act.
And look at the picture. Yeah, exactly. Look at the picture that you get there. Probably going to see something like that.
Correct.
Now, if you're somebody that takes it too far away, boom, you're going to see this. Now the arms are super disconnected.
Yeah, I got some flexion
because
going
you're
on
kind
here.
of forcing the club head outside your hands. And this is something we'd consider probably a little bit too far outside your hands, maybe a little bit quote.
Oh, no, I got to reroute.
You got to make a huge kind of shape in the transition and in the backswing to get the club to where we need it to go.
Well, and what I noticed right there too is, the ball wasn't even on the club head that long. So you can tell it's more up than it is turn with the body. It's a lot of arm and shoulder flexion than it is upper spiral rotation.
When I do this drill, kind of feeling like that club head is a brush, and I'm trying to brush
Yeah,
that
you
grass as long as I can and
Yeah.
transition. And I'm going to allow my body, which is turning away from the target or away from this first golf ball,
Right,
to get the club up at some point.
right,
Right.
right.
So at some point, you're going to turn far enough, the club head's going to get
It's
up.
got to go up.
Yep. Push it away, get that golf ball to roll as straight back as you can, and then turn and hit it.
All right, push away.
What you'll notice too is when you do that, it almost feels like transition, and then that kind of forward swing can just happen, right? It's like I set all the energy here,
Yes,
and you can kind of play with that too. If I want to throw the golf ball a little further, what happens to transition?
yes,
Just super easy.
yes. What I liked about that was transition was an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, we talk about floating. Like, I felt like the club was just floating because I put all the focus in pushing the ball out.
Yep.
Rather than picking the club up.
Exactly.
I think that's a great drill.
Yep.
We've got the head cover out, so what are we doing now?
All right, Trev, I'm going to put this right in your lead armpit. So it's going to be
Excellent.
right through here.
Excellent. Okay.
Now just bear with me.
Yeah, now what?
So what this drill is good for is if you're somebody like myself who we have this tendency of we kind of get the arms a little bit disconnected, boom.
Yeah.
Head cover falls straight on the ground, right?
Yeah, a lot of shoulder flexion going
Exactly.
on.
So we kind of falsify this turn in the backswing by like letting the arms kind of go up and out,
Yeah.
almost like a fake turn, right?
Fake turn.
And I'm very, very guilty of doing this. So what I do in order to avoid doing that is I throw that head cover right in my lead armpit.
Yep.
And I keep it in there as long as I can. I'm pretty much only make like a 9-3 swing when I do
Yeah, you
this.
can't really make a big turn with this.
No, because at some point you're going to turn and then the arms are going to have to go up, so you start to lose the club head. But this is really kind of training that good takeaway. Again, we're not talking more than about the first 3-4 feet of this golf swing. You know, the club head's not moving very far, but just feeling as if you're going to keep that head cover pinched in between your left pec and your left arm there.
Well, and look what it's doing to the center mass.
Yep.
It's keeping it out in front of me.
Again.
And again, if you want to play with, like for me, like I personally add some RD,
Yep.
that's okay because the arm's responding.
Yes.
And I would imagine if I start to supinate the trail, pronate the lead,
Yep.
if I go this way, that's another way it's going to leak out. So
Yep.
you're like, well, I don't lift, so this doesn't apply to me. But if you actually roll it open,
Yep.
you still get this gap that occurs here.
Yep.
So this is another way for instant feedback of, well, if I do this and lift, I shouldn't even hit the ball because I failed.
Well, and that's what I like too, is like I'm feeling this pinch in here as long as I can, and then I'm not letting it drop until even after I hit the golf ball. Obviously, it's going to drop at some point after I hit the golf ball if I make a big enough turn.
Right.
But I try to keep it in there as long as I can to kind of feel that, again, just really feeling like I stay making the backswing with only my core is where I feel it.
Yeah.
And just letting my hips and my arms kind of respond to what my core is doing.
Okay, so this is gonna be very pitchy.
Yes.
I mean, all of this much of a swing back, that much way through, and it really challenges you to use the upper body and that upper spiral as the driver rather than something else. So let's see how we do here. If I get busted or not. I tell you what, I was fighting for my life. I could feel my arms wanting to lift, but
I think we did a good job.
I think that was pretty solid. Okay, to quickly recap, just talk about takeaway, the importance of it, how it sets up your swing, what the body does, what the arms do, even what the hands do a little bit, and some great drills for you guys to do to clean up your takeaway. Thanks for watching this video. And if you'd like to see more of these, make sure you follow and subscribe. Right on.